We are second-class citizens in a third-world country right in the middle of the United States. I seen our people's rights just being stepped on. It's like we don't have any. You can't imagine unless you see it. Facing rifles with nothing but a prayer. They harmed our people. Last night, I witnessed the activities that happened on the bridge on 1806 north of Oceti-Shakoni Camp.
You guys are going to kill our people! We are unarmed!
What I saw, I couldn't believe. Firsthand, I seen people tear gassed, sprayed with cold water when the temperatures were around 20 degrees. I seen percussion grenades thrown at our people. Seen our people get shot by beanbags, rubber bullets.
Dude, are you all right? Come on, stop! He's down!
I too was tear gassed, grazed by a beanbag. I seen them be sprayed with water, the ones who were gathered around the fire. The other fires that I seen were started by tear gas canisters that were thrown by the Morton County Police Department. When our people went towards the west, they were trying to get out of harm's way from getting sprayed with water. I see no aggression by our people or the protectors. There was no intention to cross the lines that the police officers drew.
We're not doing anything! Stop shooting!
How I feel is beyond words. To see and witness firsthand the suffering that our people endured from being tear gassed, sprayed with water. I've been asking for help, for protection for our people so we could fight against this Dakota Access Pipeline.
National Native News, I'm Antonia Gonzalez. The leader of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe says he's undeterred by news that oil has been placed in the Dakota Access Pipeline underneath Lake
Tribes
Oahe.
And advocates are reacting after a federal judge ruled that the Army Corps of Engineers failed to complete a proper environmental examination before issuing permits for the Dakota
Chairman
Access.
Harold Fraser is being recognized by Lakota people for his leadership. Fraser is widely known as an advocate for tribal sovereignty and continues work against the Dakota Access Pipeline. He was a Sioux Tribe is hosting a water summit next week in Eagle Butte, South Dakota. Chairman Harold Fraser says the tribe is leading the way to protect water from threats and says plans.
Started, we were looking at, what they say, probably 300-400 people at the most. I think we over-exceeded that in one day. Yeah, I never thought I'd ever see that camp get that big.
And I've seen so many beautiful things happen out there. It's changed my whole life. I've seen miracles out there every day. Small ones, large ones. Things that just should not have happened came together just in an instant.
There was lots of different things that happened, like when the horses came. That was amazing. There was powerful things that were going on. So many prayers. So many prayers.
We're connected to the earth. You know, we still remember that connection. All people are connected to the earth, but people have gotten themselves so far away from the earth and so far that they don't even ever step in the dirt, you know? And we still remember that connection. So when our mother is hurting, we react.
When we're at camp, we're all quiet, calm, cool. You know, we do our thing. Then when we go here, there, we feel that tension with people, we feel that vibe, that energy. And all we can do is, you know, pray.
You got to talk with all these old people that were original Nachas, and they knew the treaty laws. It was really, really interesting to sit amongst old people and listen to them.
The Red Nations were given the guardianship of the earth, you know. So that is why, from the very beginning of time, you know, that was our responsibility.
Water brought over 300 and some tribes together, you know, because they all know the sacredness of water. And I think adding to that, there's probably over 700 flags that came to Standing Rock.
They think they defeated us. They didn't defeat us. They woke us up.
We understand water, it's our first medicine, you know. Beginning of time started, there's only a rock, they call it Wakpa Wasté, stone, that was floating around in space. And when the first medicine, water hit this stone here, life began. When we were conceived and we were in our mother's womb, we were surrounded by water. And so when that water broke, you came out and life began, you know, so for you as an individual person.
We are 4 bands of the Teton Dakota Sioux, and the other ones are Ogallala, which is in Pine Ridge, Rosebud, and Standing Rock. And we all come from the Teton Sioux.
Our people were a thriving nation at one time. Along came the horses, and we mastered the plains with the horses. And today we are a buffalo nation, a horse nation, and today we're protectors.
I've talked to some of our elders, getting stories of why we are connected to the river, and of our members are many Koju people. And they said that a long time ago, we were known as Hohoju, which meant willows. It's always lived along where there's willows, always along the river.
If you go spend any time near the water, you're going to feel that power. You're going to feel the power of that water. If you're feeling upset, depressed, angry, take it to the water. It'll take it away. By the time you come back, you're not going to be feeling that way anymore. It really is healing.
One of the things that come out of this pipeline fight was the word mini wichoni, what means water is life. Through our ceremonies, I participated in Sundance 7 times, and where I Sundanced at, they don't allow any water or anything. And believe me, after 4 days of going without food and water, you really learn, and I really learned, that water is life. And that is why it's so important for us today to stand up and fight for good, clean water, you know, so our children and grandchildren can live.
Cheyenne River people have led the fight in the protection of that water up in Standing Rock. As far back as I can remember, we've been their ally, and we helped with the spirituality of it. We keep the White Buffalo calf pipe here on Cheyenne River, and my brother Orville, he's the keeper of that White Buffalo calf pipe, and they asked him to come up there and stand with them, which he did. And so when he came up there, a lot of us went with him, and we defended those waters. This is what we drink here on this Cheyenne River reservation. We have twice as much boundary waters as Standing Rock does. And so our people here on Cheyenne River really depend on this water.
This is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer project. They came out and they did a feasibility study, and they determined that If we lost access to the waters in Lake Oahe, this reservation would have no water at all. So every community, every person living here would have to have bottled water if they were to survive.
When we had this protest up at Standing Rock for this water, the figure came around that it was going to be disrupting water for 17 million people and other 4 million on the aquifers underneath the ground, contaminating those. That was 4 million. If a pipeline broke, that would affect surface and subsurface waters.
Days after a massive oil leak in the Keystone Pipeline, a key vote comes tomorrow for the controversial Keystone XL expansion. Here's Roxana Saberi.
What appears from above to be a small spot staining the South Dakota farmland is an estimated 210,000 gallons of oil from a leak in the Keystone Pipeline.
We always think 7 generations ahead, for our children. And we want them to have the water that we're drinking today. So that is why it's so important for us to go up to Dakota Access Pipeline and protest that.
So it's something that's, going to affect everybody. Water is a finite resource, as they call it. What was here at the beginning of time is all that's here now.
And we want them to have the water that we're drinking today. So that is why it's so important for us to go up to Dakota Access Pipeline and protest that.
There's never going to be any more. So we have to take care of what's here.
The United States corporations and those don't value life like we do as a common person thinking for our future generations. So I think water was our most important resource that all the indigenous people around the world value. So that really made a big message around the world to have everybody come over and defend this fight for clean and pure water.
It's not just our fight. It's the whole world that's going to have to become involved.
To any member of the House or Senate, to any member of the executive branch, to any citizen of this country, than to come here to South Dakota and realize here in this state and in this country, there is being built the largest dam of its kind in the world. This dam and the rest of the dams on this river, which 30 years ago would have provided only floods and darkness, now provide irrigation and light.
And I'm standing here above Lake Oahe, which is the body of water that's at issue in the Dakota Access Pipeline litigation. It's a massive reservoir on the Missouri River that stretches from Standing Rock, our neighbor to the north, down to Fort Pierre, beyond the borders of our reservation. It used to be the free-flowing Missouri River, and it was the home of my tribe. When we were moved by the United States government and restricted onto this reservation back in the 19th century, and our people were devastated by losing our Aboriginal lands, but we made a home here on this river. So in the 1940s and 1950s, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers determined that they wanted to do a flood control project, which included putting a series of dams on the Missouri River. And that happened without consultation or the consent of my people. And while the dam would have a good effect on those non-Indians downstream, the dams were positioned in such a way that it flooded out the reservations, including this reservation. So right below where we're standing was the community where my dad was born, where my grandparents made their home, where my great-grandparents made their home. By 1958, it was all swallowed up by the water.
It was like a loss of innocence, for the people, because we were down there along the river bottom and we had a way of making a life for ourselves. We had the water that was just right there. We had all manner of food, plants, medicine. We had what they call wildlife or game. We were fresh from the wars. Finally, a little respite, and kind of gaining a foothold. Of course, this was another act of genocide as we saw it, because it took away our way of life, our way of caring for ourselves, providing for our people. That's the struggle. That's the struggle now, is to make a life for ourselves when there's nothing.
Our lands here were given to us because they were the poorest quality lands that the government seen that wouldn't we wouldn't be able to grow stuff on here, and we wouldn't probably survive here. But somehow these your lands were mineral rich, they didn't understand that till later. So after they found out they were mineral rich, now they want our lands again. Maybe if they keep at us right now, our people that live on these reservations, they won't have no reservation or nothing to stand or survive with.
I will tell you that our people fought hard. We did the best that we could to negotiate with the government to make the best of that situation as we could. And it was devastating for our people. We lost the best lands on our reservation.
We weren't that far away from having been, gunned down. It is like the fights that we're fighting today because it's something, again, that's being done to us.
You realize very early on is you have to know your treaties and you have to understand tribal law.
To our people, treaties are everything. We look at treaties as sacred, and it's pledged to us to uphold them treaties and to live by them treaties.
There's a common misconception about what treaties mean for Indian tribes. The popular understanding is that in treaties, the United States government gave us something that we didn't already have. But the reality is that we had full rights of a sovereign when we encountered the United States, those many years ago. And treaties were duly negotiated, bargained for agreements where the tribes gave something and the United States gave something. There was a give and take on both sides, and what tribes did was reserve to themselves, reserve to ourselves the rights and privileges that are enshrined in those treaties.
Under Article 6 of that Constitution, it says that treaties are the supreme law of the land. If you don't believe that treaties are the supreme law of the land, then you have no right calling yourself an American. And you might as well take that U.S. Constitution and wipe your ass with it. Mm-hmm. And I know that's blunt, but it's truth.
The treaties defined our boundaries, particularly the 1851 treaty. That said, this is the boundaries of the Great Sioux Nation. One of the rights that are given to us in our treaties is that we're supposed to have undisturbed use and occupation of our lands.
Our ancestors, in their wisdom, preserved for us our right to use the land and our right to hunt and fish and use the resources. Under the United States Constitution, the Founding Fathers recognized that agreements made under a treaty between one nation and another nation are the supreme law of the land. That law, under the law of the United States, trumps federal regulation, it trumps a statute, it trumps Supreme Court precedent, and most of all, it trumps the interests of private corporations. It trumps the oil industry. It trumps the energy industry.
We never gave anything away, particularly subsurface. We still own all the minerals that are in our 1851 treaty boundaries. And not only the minerals are still ours, but the government needs to get our consent, our permission to cross through our lands. And it doesn't matter if they're underground or on surface, they still need to get our consent.
Part of the treaty obligation of the United States is that it must consult with us and obtain our consent. And currently, the United States has a policy that we call consultation. The agencies send out mostly lower-level bureaucrats to public meetings.
Colonel John Henderson of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers,
and then they look down at their paper and they check a box.
Held a public forum in Mobridge for Native Americans to express their concerns.
It's our job to ensure that these permits do not have a negative impact and do not damage the environment.
And they bring it back to Washington, D.C. or their area office and they say, there you go, we consulted. The obligation of governments that affect the treaty rights of Indigenous people must be free, prior, and informed consent.
In our treaties in the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, the Missouri River is our eastern boundary. And even if you look in the Act of 1889, which established our reservation, it still referenced our eastern boundary is the Missouri River. We've been facing a lot of challenges, a lot of fights, the fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline crossing the Missouri River. One of the things that I really truly learned is that us Indian people, right now, today, our voice doesn't matter.
It looks like the roadblock up here is going up in flames. The LRAD's now going off.
It's just like we are second-class citizens in a third-world country right in the middle of the United States.
There's lines of police officers, Humvees with snipers in the turrets up there as well.
And I truly believe I've seen our people's rights just being stepped on. It's like we don't have any civil rights here in the Dakotas.
It's the first arrest that happened today.
Even if we arrest somebody,
So they
we will
pulled
not
somebody
hurt
in,
them.
they arrested
But you
them.
need to go to the zone.
What I've seen up there and how the federal government has failed us miserably.
Do not throw objects from the ground.
You know, I was told by the U.S. Attorney's Office in South Dakota, as well as Colonel Henderson, the Corps of Engineers, that our people's First Amendment rights would be protected as long as it was on federal ground. And that turned out to be a big lie.
The left and throw rounds aimed at people.
Part of the reason that these extreme energy extraction companies are targeting North Dakota and South Dakota and Montana and Nebraska is they don't see us as a viable opposition. They don't really see us as humans. They don't really see the farmer as a human, their own Washitula farmer as a human. They don't see that because it's not a CEO. That's all they think about is money. They don't think about the earth. They don't think about the land.
The lack of knowledge of what the negative impacts of these pipelines or these oil companies are doing to our lands. A lot of people that haven't experienced being out in the country really can imagine the impacts, the way of life that are going to be changed. There's a lot of people in the government that are making decisions on behalf of us that they don't have a clue what it's like to be out here. We could have a whole way of life destroyed or our lives destroyed, really.
I'm always thinking, why isn't everybody up there for that protest? Because everybody uses this water here on the Cheyenne River Reservation, ranchers, farmers, and townships. And so I was wondering why there wasn't more to people up there. But it did its job up there at Standing Rock.
We're standing at the construction site of the Dakota Access Pipeline, and hundreds of people have been marching up when they heard that the construction site is actually active right now. One man in hard hat threw one of the protesters down, and they're marching over the dirt mounds. Some of the security have dogs.
It went viral around the world through the Facebook and news. The big media wouldn't cover it for a long time because the oil companies had control in the media of allowing bigger CNN and other ones not to come. But after September 3rd, when the dog attacks happened up there,
Security has some kind of gas. People are being pepper sprayed. Sir.
It just makes me in the face. A dog bit him right now.
Dog on me. Over there with that dog. I was like walking, throw the dog on me straight, even without any warning.
Are you telling the dogs to bite the protesters? The dog has blood in its nose and its mouth.
And she's still standing here threatening.
You can't put your phone on the dog. You won't live with that.
It bit somebody right in the face, and then it charged at me and tried to bite me against us, and we're not doing anything.
they had no choice but to cover it because thousands of people were flocking up there to help in that protest and protecting the water.
There's supposed to be some camp head chiefs up there asked us what to do. We just want to kind of respect their decision. For a while there, for about 5 weeks, we didn't do nothing. the elders of the camp came over, asked us veterans to do something. So that's when we start moving forward. But we had ways to stop all of this. We could have went and fought them because they have no jurisdiction on our land. We could have literally went and fought.
It's hard on us as veterans because we wanted to do something, but at the same time, we're supposed to have some camp leaders. Our chairman advised us that it has to be peaceful. It was hard on us to restrain ourselves from doing things, especially when they were doing things to the people, the kids, the women and stuff. It was hard for us not to retaliate against them, I guess, which we should have.
Out of respect for the camp leaders, we kind of held back. So I think the veterans, we knew their strategies and how to skirmish them, but we just held back. Was it December 4th? We had, 700 veterans here?
Yeah, no, we had more than that.
We had more than that, but we all convoyed up there that day. And they knew all of these veterans are coming. They knew this was coming. So remember, they put a halt to digging at that time because they were afraid. When we got there, we got the word that they halt the digging. Because they knew all these veterans were really ready to fight. I think they got scared of us.
For our job as veterans was to protect the people. That
even though we didn't have any weapons, all we got is our hands.
Now there was a pretty famous tar sand spill in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and they said that they cleaned it up. Go to Kalamazoo and you talk to the residents there and ask them if it's cleaned up. It's not cleaned up. You cannot clean up tar sands. What happens is it sinks to the bottom and you can't clean it up. It's stuck there. The fish are still dying. They can't clean it out of their water and they can't use that river for drinking water. It's just not possible. It's poisoned. I don't want that to happen to the Cheyenne River. And then what? It goes into the Missouri? What are we going to do if that one breaks? What are we going to do if DAPL breaks? We're cut off. What do we do?
And this is not the only place that was in jeopardy because of oil going into the river. Michigan and a lot of other states have these same problems, but never knew how to address it until Standing Rock and the natives brought that awareness of how sacred water was and how important it is to sustain all of us. We didn't want it crossing our territories anywhere. And we just wanted to have our water clean, keep it clean for our future generations.
The water that's contained in Lake Oahe is the source of our fresh drinking water here on this reservation. The Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe has a large land base. We're about the size of the state of Connecticut. We've had studies done about the groundwater. It is absolutely full of hard metals. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers actually determined that it was unsuitable for drinking. We have another river down on our southern border, the Cheyenne River, for which our reservation is named, and it is completely polluted with mine tailings like arsenic. We can't use it for drinking water, so this is it.
We're facing Dakota Access Pipeline, we're facing Keystone XL, we're facing Dewey Burdock mining. They're doing seismic drilling, testing in the Black Hills, which is very sacred to our people. It just seemed like we're back to the 1800s again, when the non-Indians first found America. We're facing attacks from everywhere. It's really hard today. We don't have all the resources to effectively stand up and defend our people and our homelands and our way of life. So it's pretty tough. One of the things that we've always said is that the American government has failed us, and so far the American people have not. We need that unity. We got to have unity to stand up to what's going on. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. You know, we all bleed red, and it's important that we stand together to fight this, because in the end, all we have is each other. Whether you're Native American or whatever background you come from, is we're still human beings.
I remember watching these little ones. It must have been about 4 or 5 years old, standing on the front line in front of those cops. They were singing some dance songs. Those little ones were dancing and saying, "Mini Wichoni." to those cops, and those cops were there in full riot gear in front of those little kids. Those little kids were warriors, man. Will I face it again? Yeah. I'll do it again. I don't want to. I don't want to do it again. But I will.
Good afternoon, good evening, my relatives. This is Joy Braun. The Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe is being assaulted on all sides. My people's lives are in danger right now. And while we have diligently been praying for all of our relatives, and that these big companies, these big oil companies, these big extractive industry companies are targeting Indigenous people, they have definitely targeted the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe. What we're asking you today is to please dig deep into your pockets. It may only be $1. It may be $10. Maybe you're lucky enough and you can give $100. But whatever it is, please donate to the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, because we need you. We need everybody to help. Please consider donating to www.wakpawasté.com. Please help us stop these black snakes.